In this video, I'm going to try and provide you with a few ways that you can install a larger beam for a flush ceiling. And hopefully some of this will make sense. Let's go ahead and take a look at the beam. Here we have a beam. It's a 6 by 12. You might need a larger beam, might need a smaller beam depending upon the span and the load. So here we have a ECC 6.6, basically an in column cap, and it's attached to a 6 by 6 post, and you can see that it is flush with the ceiling. Now I went ahead, and it's not uncommon to have rafters, and after you cut it back, so the previous example that I had the beam on this side of the wall. This one here I moved over even with the wall. It is even with the wall here. The other beam before was over here, and I'm trying to give you a different idea by drawing it a few different ways here for this. And there's just another one of them. Now I went ahead and installed some type of a block here. It's a shaped block. It's not uncommon to have the rafters. If you move the beam farther back, not uncommon to have the rafters to where they're not going to be sitting inside of a hanger. So something like this might work just fine for you. And then of course a double hanger if the rafters line up or if they lap next to the ceiling joist, or ceiling joists are installed next to the rafter. Again, the shaped blocks. I don't recommend installing a small block like this. Something like this, I think you could put a couple of nails in, maybe 3 nails, something like back here. The hanger will help to tie everything together, but something like this might not work. It might, you drive a nail into something like this and it might split it. And if you leave it in there, it's not going to work very good. The other side, you will need to install some type of a strap to go around, whether it goes underneath the metal hanger or whether it goes over it. It's going to be sticking out, creating problems for your drywall anyway, especially with these big bolts here. And don't forget, if you're going to install bolts like this, always install the bolts to where they go into an area where the threaded part, when it sticks through. Otherwise it sticks out here. I've seen them stick out an inch before, and that leaves you with like an 1.5 inch thing that you're not going to be able to fix with a drywall. So keep that in mind also. Now you are going to come to some spots every once in a while where the regular hanger won't work. You might need to use a top flange hanger like this. So keep that in mind also. There are a few other ways. If you come to a situation where this won't work, feel free to leave a comment in the comment area. I do have one more suggestion that I should have put in this video, but what the heck, I can't put everything in here. So top flange hanger, A35 Tico clips, they might work, but the hanger right here, if you have a situation like this might work just fine. Here's the big problem in case you haven't noticed it yet. You install a flush beam with a ceiling, it's going to be sticking out if it's too big. And this could be a problem. You can see right here that the roof won't work if we leave it like this. We're not just going to be able to build a conventional roof because the dang beam's going to be sticking out. Give you a better idea. And you can't just take and cut the beam, and I say that, but actually an engineer allowed me to do this on a job, and I was shocked. Maybe I'll put the picture in here for the main, for my thumbnail picture to give you an idea. I was actually shocked that they let me cut it. I did not cut the beam. They drew it in. We were building a room addition. The beam was sticking out of the roof. I left it out of the roof. There was no way I was going to cut that and have the engineer say, oh, you shouldn't have cut it. So if you have an engineer on the job, make sure you check with them first before you do anything, any modifications to something they have on the plans. So this right here is what you're going to end up with if you install the beam like this. And there are a few things you can do. One of them will be to install larger rafters. Let's just say you have 2x8 rafters. Maybe a 2x12 rafter will solve your problem and give you enough to cover the beam. And I have actually seen people, I know this is shocking, but I've seen people just take and get metal and put the metal over the beam to leave it like it is, and then roof around it and just paint the metal the color of the roofing. It doesn't look too bad, but if that's not what you're looking for, then maybe a few other things in the video here will help. First up on the list is that you could always move the beam in if it's possible. And again, this would be nice to actually realize during the design phase so that you can pour the footing in the right spot. But instead of having the beam come all the way out, you can actually move it in. And here I actually moved it in. Over there I didn't move it in. I left it where it was. I just put the beam and I don't have any plates in over here. My mistake. Over here we do. The wall comes out and there's the post and the beam with the connector. Another view of it there without the ceiling joist in the way. Again, giving you a better idea. You are going to come out this way. So if you do have if you're building something, maybe it's a kitchen and you need cabinets to run through here, then this idea won't work. But this idea would work. You could see right here, if you just wanted an opening with equal sides, something like this, let's say it came out 12 inches, something like this could solve your problem and allow you to use the same size rafters, and everything should work out hunky-dory. Now, some engineers will allow you to cut a section of the beam. Again, you would need to check with them. It's real common to allow 1/4 the distance. So if I had an 8-inch board here, 1/4 of that would be 2 inches. I would have 4 2-inch increments. They would allow you to cut 2 inches at a 45-degree angle. But again, this is something you would need to check with the structural engineer to see whether or not you could do it. And this would allow you to move the beam or the post this way. So where we're looking at in the picture, it would allow you to move it to the left. In the previous one, I didn't move the post. I extended the beam past and cut this to give you an idea. You can actually just move this back, and this would give you the distance or a little more room. So if you needed 10 inches and you were at 12 inches, maybe something like this would work out just fine. Give you an idea there. And then, of course, this one here, I cut it with the same angle as the roof. With the one over here, I cut it at a 45-degree angle. And again, you would need to check with the engineer. If you had, let's say, a 2 and 12 pitch roof, something that was real low, and the engineer wanted a 45-degree angle, then you couldn't shape something that would go all the way over to here. That wouldn't be, a 45-degree angle versus a 15-degree angle kind of a thing might not work or be acceptable with an engineer. So you need to, again, check with them first before you do anything like this. Here's another suggestion. You could actually raise the walls. See if you got a better angle there. You can see that this is the original wall. Maybe it was an 8-foot wall. And you could raise it 4 or 5 inches to blend in with the beam and use the same rafters. This will raise the ceiling and raise the entire roof enough to where you could cover the beams here. The only problem with this is it might create some problems for your fascia board. It's the only problem I could think of. So this right here would be a good fix for something like this. If you didn't want to cut the beam, you weren't allowed to cut the beam, and you didn't mind the ceiling in this room being a little higher, and of course the fascia board. You'd have to figure out, would this be acceptable to have the fascia board come up here a little higher? And this really wouldn't be that big of a deal because the fascia board can come over to here and sit on top of the roof. So this really wouldn't be a big deal. Your valley would move over a little bit. So instead of having the valley come out here and going up to the ridge like it normally would, if the walls were the same height and you use the same rafters, then that would work out fine. This right here, if it was up here, the valley would start over here somewhere and then go up. So that really wouldn't be too big of a deal. And of course, the fact that the ceiling would be raised. But this wouldn't be that big of a deal either because you could always lower the ceiling. Might not be able to raise the ceiling all the time, but you could lower it if you wanted it to be the same height. So anyway, I hope that helps. Another suggestion could be to get an engineered roof system created to where the roof trusses were built to where they'd be a little higher. That way you would have the ceiling, you could frame the same height walls and everything, and then the roof trusses would create or would solve the problem, I should say. So you might also think about using a combination of things. If you can notch the top of the beam, maybe you might be able to notch it 45 degrees. And if you need a few more inches, you might be able to use larger rafters. So if you got 2x6, you might be able to use 2x8 or 2x10. So in other words, use a combination of the things I suggested in this video to solve a problem if just one of them won't work for you.